Mess with my kids? Lose your house. I've got 2 stepsons, who I just call my sons as I've been in their life since they 8 and 10 and are now young men. My wife and I made it a point to have a great relationship with their dad Jason and made sure he had a chance to be around as much as possible, even staying at our place frequently to be around his boys as he lived over an hour away and couldn't afford to live closer. Jason had a crazy ex-GF who had tried to claim they were married, variously saying common law or that they were married in secret, or married on an Indian reservation, but he had a restraining order out against her because she was nuts and had tried various ways to screw up his life. The ex is a horrible person. She had been arrested several times for forgery and fraud. She and Jason had a fiery relationship, but he had it in his head that he should make it work as he did like her daughters and grandson. But the ex got him sent to prison for violating his probation when he left the county to go to his mom's funeral and hadn't filed an appropriate form. After he got out several months later, she wanted him back and he wasn't having it. He made a clean break, moved to a new town, but she continued to harass him, thus leading to the restraining order. She would send texts to people pretending to be police investigating, saying he was drunk driving or taking drugs, or pretending to be friends and family to spread rumors and hurt him. She even sent texts to my kids from burner phones, pretending to be other family or friends, saying awful things about their dad. Jason died unexpectedly of a heart attack and it was a shock to all of us. He was finally living in peace, had great relationships with friends and his sons, and was the happiest he had ever been. He didn't have much. He lived in a single wide trailer a friend had let him stay in for free, some boxes of tools, old comics, video games, D&D books and modules, mementos from his times in the Marines, and an old 2009 pickup, which, on several occasions, he had promised my oldest son Paul. Jason didn't have a will, and my wife became the executor of the estate because at the time of death, both the sons were minors and sole heirs. We packed up the things out of Jason's trailer and took the truck, which had Jason's name on the title but had to wait for the death certificate to retitle it in Paul's name. But the ex called Jason's sister demanding the truck saying it was hers and posting on FB she was reporting it as stolen, etc., which really pissed me off. After we got the death certificate, we went to the DMV and found out that she had stolen the title to the truck by forgery saying she was the only heir and we couldn't transfer the title. My son was driving around with a packet documenting everything in case he was pulled over for driving a stolen vehicle. We had to get a lawyer and start a special process that took several months before a director at the DMV fixed it and we were able to title the truck with the ex continuing to threaten and cause problems and made everyone miserable and cost us several thousand in legal fees. Early last year, we got through probate court, the ex never showed, in spite of saying that she was the wife and sole heir. The court declared the boys as the sole heirs and my wife as executor of the estate in their names. Instead of showing up, the ex sent an email to the court saying she couldn't make it because of work and that Jason was never around his kids and that they were just leeching off his SSI for the back child support, which was all not true. She went on with a bunch of other non-relevant shit just to trash my wife and sons and pretty much said it didn't matter what the judge said that she should get everything. During this time we found out that Jason's name was on the deed of the ex's house. In order to get a reduction in property taxes because of Jason's disabled veteran status, she had filed papers to put him on the deed, but not the mortgage. If she had just left my kids alone, we would have let it go, but she had pushed principal beyond the point of denial, so we filed suit for half the house. Property is worth about $380,000. We went to court-ordered mediation, and she rejected a mediated settlement of a fraction of the value, which we would have taken. In April, her lawyer dropped her and so she got a continuance on the first hearing. She then claimed that she had found a will from Jason designating her as sole heir, in addition to another signed paper that she found as a quitclaim deed from Jason for the house. I did wonder if it was this or her not paying him which caused him to drop her. She was going to go back to probate court to reopen probate and needed time for that, which the judge granted. On Tuesday, we finally went to court on the deed to the house. She no-showed. The judge had inquiries to the probate court, and she never filed any papers. The trial lasted less than 10 minutes as the judge recorded the facts and awarded the estate half the property. They will impanel 3 lawyers to determine how the property will be sold and she's going to lose her house and for the first time in her miserable life, face the consequences of her actions. My family and fiancé excommunicated me after my sister sabotaged me. Part 2. The last time I spoke to you all, my fiancé had just visited me after 2 years saying my family and him wanted to reconnect after my sister sabotaged me to make me look like I cheated. Well, I have an update for you. So I never got back to my ex. I didn't know what to do, but eventually he must have given my phone number to my parents as they texted asking to meet up. I never replied and was planning on organizing a Zoom meeting but didn't need to as they also showed up at my door. Well, my father did. When I answered the door and saw him standing there, I ended up throwing up which he insisted on cleaning. When he was done, we sat down and I just bursted in tears. My emotions were all over the place and my father has worn the same cologne for a really long time, so when I smelt it, it just brought back all these memories. He tried to hug me but I pushed him away and asked what he was doing here. He went on to explain he and my mother are getting a divorce. He said he begged my mother to get in touch with me the minute I left, but she refused and said I was acting like a baby and if I wanted to leave them after doing something so horrible, then I could do things on my own from then on. I asked him how long it took them to notice I was gone. He said they arrived back home after New Year's Eve and were planning on inviting me over so we could talk. That's when they got in touch with my friend and she told them I left and she didn't know where I was. I asked him why he didn't listen to my side of the story and why they threw me away so easily. He just started crying. He said he never meant for things to get so out of hand and he wishes more than anything he could take it all back. I said when they found out Nikki was taking drugs and had dropped out of high school, they didn't throw her away. Instead, we all went on a holiday so she could focus on things besides drugs, and during that trip, she got hooked on alcohol, and each time they defended her over and over. He said he had no idea my mother was going to kick me out. He thought it was going to be for a few days, but then they decided at the last minute to spend Christmas out of state. My mother apparently promised him I would be allowed back home after they got back. I said she threw away all my stuff, but he said everything was still there and she lied about that. I asked him what had happened to Nikki, and he said she is dead to him. He wants nothing to do with her, but my mother has been crying to him, asking to forgive Nikki as she is not well and they had already lost one daughter. They cannot lose two. He blocked my mother and Nikki and has been on my ex's case about finding me. My ex caved in when my dad said he blocked my mother and Nikki and told him where I lived. I asked that he never show up again unless I give him permission, and he agreed. He asked what would happen now, and I said I really don't know and that he hurt me really bad. I then just went into detail about how much he hurt me and what it felt like seeing them so happy without me and how hard it has been. We were both crying by the end of it, but I was really glad I got it all out. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. My dad then said he knew a few places around the area and would help get me a better apartment, and he said he would help get me a better job, but I told him I wouldn't be leaving this job as my boss helped me out so much and I wanted to repay him at all costs. I said I didn't want him to do anything for me, but that I do want to reconcile, but it has to be on my own terms and it is going to take a very, very long time to trust him again, and I may never trust him again. He said he would do anything to make up for what he did. I asked him why Nikki did this and if she said anything about it. Well, she said she thought my ex deserved better than me and she wanted to see him happy because he was making too many sacrifices in the relationship. She loved him like a brother and wanted to break the engagement off. So that night she asked her friend to come and escort me out of the club so she could get photos and to take me home so her plan could work. She said nothing sensual happened. I went to sleep on the sofa and that was it. He was up playing video games all night until I woke up, which he has proof of apparently. My dad was planning on getting my stuff from my mother's house and bringing it to me, but I told him I didn't want those things anymore. I then went to ask about Nikki's husband and he said my mother has been hush-hush with the entire situation, but he had his number and wrote it down for me. After my dad left, I decided to call Nikki's husband. I was sweating the entire time and felt so sick. What if I could hear her in the background? Well, anyhow, when he picked up, I just spit everything out, which I deeply regret because I should have eased into it for him. He sounded really confused and I explained the entire situation again. I even went into detail about her drug and alcohol problems. I was honestly expecting him to curse me out and defend Nikki. Instead, he let out a long sigh and well, turns out, he had a feeling she wasn't exactly innocent. Turns out her and his sister have been having problems and she has been spouting non-stop lies about his sister and has caused a huge rift between them. His sister didn't even attend their wedding. I told him I was sorry, but he should make things right with his sister because Nikki was the problem, not her. We spoke a little more and he hung up. I'm not entirely sure what he is going to do with that information. I hope he cuts his losses and leaves her because he sounded like a really nice person, and even he has lost his own sister because of Nikki. So I have decided to reconcile with my dad. My mother has always run the show their entire marriage, so the fact he is putting his foot down and divorcing her and going no contact with Nikki shows he is serious about wanting to make amends. I don't think I will ever reconcile with my mother, as she thinks Nikki is a victim also in all this, and at this point I don't care to listen to her excuses. If she reaches out and we talk, I will update the post again. For my ex, I haven't had the time to meet with him and talk, though my dad mentioned he wanted to come with my dad, but he told him I would be too overwhelmed if both were there, and seeing them separated will help make clear decisions. He also mentioned my ex was arrested for assaulting Nikki's friend who lied about the entire situation. He was being charged, but the charges were dropped a few days later. I will update the post again when I have time to speak to my ex. Thank you guys for listening to this story. It's something that has been bottled up in me for a long time. My husband was mad I wasn't pregnant yet, but left me when I finally was. It led me to meeting my soulmate. My name is Anna, I'm 26 years old and I met my husband when I was 20 years old. I had run away from home to avoid the constant fights of my parents. My parents have been married for 30 years, but they are not compatible. They fight over every little matter at home and it greatly affected me. Every day, I find myself hating marriage and falling in love. My mental health was messed up as I also kept jumping from one relationship to another. I left my parents' place at the age of 19 and moved to another town, in search of greener pastures. I thought things would be easy for me without my parents' support, but I was wrong. Things became totally hard, even though I had a job that kept me alive. Yet, I could not make ends meet. I was on the edge of losing my apartment when I met Tony, a young entrepreneur. Tony had a large bakery in town with lots of workers working for him. I became one of his workers and worked diligently to earn my wages. 2 weeks after I started working there, Tony started making advances towards me. I could not resist his charming features as I also found myself staring at him frequently. He was rich and strikingly handsome, and when he asked me out on a date, I could not refuse. Anna, I would love you to go on a date with me tomorrow night, he said to me with a rose flower in his hands. I felt my cheeks turning red from blush as I shyly replied to him. He took me out and we had a nice dinner together. We talked about our lives for a while before he made his intentions known. Since you stepped into my bakery, I had the feeling that you are the one for me. I found it hard to take my eyes off you. I can't do without looking at you in a day. Please, will you be my girlfriend? My face flushed. Yes, yes. I will be your girlfriend, I replied with smiles all over my face as I hugged him. That way, we started our love life and we had a beautiful quiet wedding after a year. Life became comfortable for me, I was able to afford anything I wanted. My husband became more caring and affectionate. But, after 7 months of marriage, I was not pregnant. My husband started acting strange towards me. I thought you would be able to give me an heir after marriage. With your great shape, you should be able to produce a lot. But, It's been 7 months and you have never been pregnant for once. I can't keep wasting my time and money on a barren woman. Ah, honey. I'm not barren. We are trying. You don't have to be so harsh on me. Why are you so hard on me? I ended up crying to bed after he angrily left the apartment to drink. The next month, I missed my period and I was excited because I was finally pregnant. Pregnancy changed a lot of things about me. I found it hard to stay awake. I could not go to the bakery as usual. I was frequently nauseous and it irritated my husband. Once my pregnancy was in the 6th month, we did a scan and realized that I was pregnant with a pretty girl. When you finally decided to get pregnant, you thought of giving me a girl. If you know what's best for you, get rid of that thing and give me an heir, my husband threatened as soon as we got back to our apartment. I was rendered speechless after what he said. I managed to find my voice after a while. A baby girl is not a bad thing. We should both come together and nurture her with love. Sweetheart, don't you dare lecture me on what I want. Get rid of that thing or I do it myself. I looked at my husband in dismay and thought of my parents. Memories of their daily flights flashed back as I thought of how my mother felt each time my dad fought with her. That night, my husband did not return home. He came back the next day to only pack his bags and left me dazzled. He made it known that he has nothing to do with me. A week later, I saw his pictures on social media with another lady, getting married. The shock of his second marriage while I was pregnant with his child, sent me into premature labor. I was rushed to the hospital by my neighbor, a young man in his early 30s. Martin helped me to the hospital and stood by me till I gave birth to my premature baby girl. My baby girl was so tiny that she had to be put in the incubator. My husband never checked on me till my baby was old enough to be out of the incubator. Tony kept flaunting the beautiful woman he just married, who was a model. He kept spending on her and buying her numerous things till he almost became bankrupt. Martin, my neighbor, kept checking on my bae and I. He made sure he gives my girl, Ella, a massage every day when he comes to visit. Martin just lost his wife 4 years back while she was delivering their first child. Since then, he never remarried. But each time he comes to visit, he takes extra care of me and shows his affection in numerous ways. Martin and I started going for walks together with Ella. He tried his best to make me happy, and before I knew it, I forgot about Tony, my ex-husband. When Ella was 2 months old, Tony sent the divorce papers to me and threatened me to sign them. With a heavy heart and tears in my eyes, I signed it and he left my life for good. Martin didn't let me feel Tony's absence as he took it upon himself to cheer me up. Together, we went to the cinema, had ice cream during our walk, and had dinner together. When Ella clocked a year, Martin organized a big birthday party just for her. He invited his coworkers and I invited some of my friends with their kids. Martin gave Ella a beautiful birthday present and we all had a nice time together. Once everyone left, he helped me clean and it was then he made his intentions known. Since I lost my wife, I felt no need to remarry. But, the day I helped you to the hospital, I realized that you needed a shoulder to rest on. I started developing feelings for you, not out of pity, but out of love for tiny Ella. Please, I'll love to have you in my life. I've fallen in love with Ella and I can't seem to part with her. I will be really glad if you will be my wife and fill the void left by my dead wife. I promise to take care of you and always love you. Oh my God, Martin. You've been a wonderful man to me. I'll willingly accept you to be Ella's father and my husband. His family approved of our union and we had a beautiful wedding. One bright afternoon, a knock sounded on our apartment. I opened the door and saw a poor-looking man standing outside our apartment. How may I help you, sir? Anna, it's me. It's Tony. What? How did you turn out to be like this? My new wife squandered all my money on her career. I sold my bakery, took out a loan and used my house as mortgage. She eventually left with another wealthy man. But, I'm homeless now and starving. Can you please take me back? Just then, Martin emerged from the room with Ella and interrupted. Is that my baby girl? She's pretty. Can I hold her? Tony asked. I heard everything you said. You have no place here. Anna is now my wife. And this is my child, not yours. Go away, you left me in pain, Tony. Now, you want me back? It's too late. Go away and never come back here. I'm happy with my family. I slammed the door in his face. With Tony finally gone, my life became peaceful. After 3 years, I became pregnant with a baby boy for Martin. Martin treated me like an egg all through my pregnancy and pampered me well. I gave birth to a handsome, healthy baby boy whom we named Adrian. Together, we all lived as a healthy, happy family full of smiles.